Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Idle Zeros. It's been a while since I had something worthwhile to say, but I think I've got something of relative use. So, I was going to do two videos, one on Void Boss 3 and some things to consider with that, and the other on the idea of A tiers beyond your damage dealers. So, we're just going to tackle those in one video. I'm going to merge them as best I can. So, we'll just look at some gameplay. This was captured a few days ago. You can see I already cleared it. So this is a little bit stronger than what you need on an account like mine in order to do the clear. But we're just going to try anyway. Something important to take note of is that this boss, as you probably know already, its gimmick, the first one was damage reflections. The second one was crazy crowd control that you basically need PDE for. And this one's gimmick is just, its job is to just absolutely flatten you. It is as brutal as a boss gets, at least until you're thrown into hard mode in Star Expedition for the first time. That's probably a bit scarier. But this boss absolutely destroys you if you are not prepared for it. So let's talk about what you need in order to survive. So the big thing, you'll notice that DGN has perished. That is actually going to be a pretty big problem. Because obviously, you need to find a way to counter this damage. TBB is not going to do it because the boss can't be controlled. Shields, they can suffice if you are large enough of an account. I'm not. These minions and the boss just ripped through my shields, even if they're completely full, even if I'm running damage artifacts, damage reduction artifacts. So the main thing that I like to use, and that probably everybody likes to use, I don't know, I haven't really paid attention to other people's clears, is you need a pretty big DGN. Not necessarily a big stat-wise DGN, but you need a DGN to survive, and you need her to get active skills and Destiny transitioned as well. So we'll talk about why that is. You'll notice that I'm surviving pretty well. This is better than most people, and it's better than even I'm able to survive consistently. These three fights that we're watching, I got rather lucky for, in that I didn't get absolutely nuked off the planet early on. And we'll talk about why that is. But so you'll notice probably by now this is not going to work out. I don't have enough energy feed, and my supports are dying, and we still have 3 minions up, and they're near full health, so that's going to be bad. But let's take a look at what some successful fights will look like. So first and foremost, as I alluded to, you're going to need DGN to survive. And we'll look at all of their skills at the end so we can know why. I forgot I had some extra stellar in there, pumped it into Star Alchemist Holmes Young so I can give HHA some extra stats, because more shielding is more sustain. Back into it though. What I'd like you to do is watch the debuffs that occur on the boss. You'll notice we already have a precision debuff that's going to be from HHA core. DGN piling on the debuffs, SQH piling on the debuffs, because with every time SQH gets hit when she is sublimed, I think it's her third passive, everybody with Queen's Guard, that's going to be the whole team, except for SQH herself, is going to apply attack reduction. LFA is going to apply a massive reduction of attack because he steals it when he has Demon King's Might, which obviously applies to the boss, and HHA also steals attack on his active skill. So the main win condition for this boss is to pile on as much attack reduction as possible so that the boss just does not scratch you. And you'll notice that we always have some piled on. HHA piling some more on. Not the largest active skill from LFA, but we're getting there. Precision debuffs, armor debuffs. Here comes LFA attacking again. Boss goes down. And now this looks pretty clean. LFA, I think, is going to get actives for the rest of the fight. You might miss one or two by the end, but that's going to be okay. But the way you survive out of the first few rounds and getting the boss dead, barring like humongous round 1 and 2, active skills are going to be DGN, applying as many debuffs as possible. And of course, the damage reduction from your supports that you apply to yourself helps a lot as well. But on the topic of supports, we need to discuss. I'm making this video now because I don't know if there's something in the water or something, or what's going on, but there has just been an influx of people that I've seen talking about how they're going to get all these A-tier supports for their accounts, and they're all stacked with all their story gems and stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay, you can get A-tier supports, but let's think about why we might get A-tier supports, what value they can bring, and if you think that that value is actually worth it. So the first thing I hear, the two most common supports I hear for getting A tiers are going to be HHA, and they're going to be Therapist of Blood Betty. They are very meta. I see them being meta for a long, long time. One, because HHA is an incredible supporter. Reactive shielding is wild, and TBB is the best CC hero we have ever seen by a long shot. So both have a place on pretty much every account until something comes along and shifts the meta a little bit. But as of now, they're both great and everybody has one. So of course it makes sense that everybody wants A-tier supports. But so I express my, I don't want to say disapproval necessarily, because some people use them. I want to preface that this is not directed towards whales or people like me, for example, who have absolutely enormous accounts with huge train, and they're covered on all of their tenant copies and everything like that. And they're not limited by cores of origin or anything like that either. This is directed towards early to mid-game players, really, maybe mid-spenders who have some extra starry gems. And they're just like, all right, I got my A-tier damage dealer, I got my Aspen, I got my Vulcan Awaken. Let's look at the supports now. Why might that not be the greatest idea ever? Well, let's talk about it. The big reason that I hear for TBB and HHA is that, well, they can do some damage. So Giant Killer will just augment that. And it'll be good. And my account will benefit from that. And it would benefit from that. It's true. But how much would it benefit from that? Let's think about it for a second. And we'll be able to think about it very well whenever this fight ends, because we'll be able to see the damage numbers that occurred here. LFA is going to get the kill either this round or next. It's going to be next. And there it goes. Okay, so let's take a pause here. Whoops. Yeah, okay. We're going to scoot it a little bit over. There it is. Okay. So, Giant Killer will double your damage in almost all circumstances in PvE. So let's just assume I put Giant Killer on my HHA for the main reason that I hear people say, because he does more damage. What exactly is doubling HHA's damage output here going to do? I mean, granted, LFA has more attack. He has more destiny. He has more divine power. But what exactly is doubling this amount of damage going to do? What is tripling it going to do? What is multiplying it by 10 going to do? It's going to do nothing, basically. Because, first off, HHA is a supporter. His kit isn't very conducive to being a full all-out tank. Whereas the actual damage dealers, the one that everybody gets A tiers of, LFA, DTV, SSM, they are dedicated damage dealers. That is their mission. LFA can function as a support without Giant Killer as well, but that's besides the point. So you might say, well, yeah, That's not much damage, but I think it's still worth it. It's worth, let's look at the market. Game reloaded. So that little baby sliver on the health bar. Let's look at Ilamok. And let's be charitable. Let's give the cheapest one in the recents. Let's say I think that extra damage is worth 12,000 starry gems. First of all, I would disagree with you strongly, but let's just assume, okay, fine. That's a lot of damage. Okay, fine. If you think that's worth your 12,000 starry gems, I will sign off on that and you can get it. But I would also say it's not like you're either getting Ilamok or nothing else. It's you now have 12,000 starry gems that you can spend on something else if you decide you just want a B tier Ilamok. Which, by the way, most of Ilamok's function comes from his shielding. When an ally blocks and grants ally a shield. That's why you build Ilamok. You build him for his damage reduction, and you build him for his shielding, which, by the way, only scales on attack and has no interaction with Giant Killer whatsoever. So, here's what I would recommend instead. Get yourself a nutty B+. I think this costs like, I don't know, let's be mean and say that this costs 3,000 starry gems. 25% of what the A tier would. So we have A tier attack, and the shielding is going to be about as strong as what an A tier will, unless you buy a cracked copy with like A+ attack, or S tier attack, in which case it would be even more expensive. But you can get most of his function at B+. And so if let's just say I pull an Ilamok, for example, and it's A tier, and it has this exact attack stat. Actually, let's say it has an attack stat 300 more. Let's say it has 6,800. I'm not replacing this B+. I'm selling that A tier because I can get 12,000 starry gems, and I'm using those starry gems on something else. Because the benefit I get from having an A tier Ilamok, just from Giant Killer, is less than that starry amount invested elsewhere. For example, we can do Treasure Train. This is probably this is the worst place you can get train tickets for CSG because it's just not the best value. But this 12,000 starry gems, that's almost 100 train tickets. I'd probably rather have 100 train tickets and a B tier Ilamok with A tier attack than an A tier Ilamok and no train tickets, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Next up, let's look at TBB. Her mission is to twine and to prevent enemies from attacking. And you may have seen my video on Overseer Clear. I think I might have multiple at this point. But the fights were lasting 30, 40, 50 rounds. And to prove a point even, I took the Awakens off all of my heroes. And I did it with an unawakened Star Alchemist Holmes Young. And I did it with no Destiny either. And I still cleared Overseer. So I ask, what exactly does TBB need Giant Killer for? Because if she's doing her job and she's preventing the team from attacking forever, why does she need more damage in the first place? If you lock them down forever, it doesn't matter if she has one attack on her attack stat. Eventually, the game will ramp up the damage for you, and you will kill them, regardless of what the attack stat is, because you're never dying. You live forever, and the game scales very well. It buffs your damage after round 15. You also have the monster pets that will buff your damage over time. So I'm not really seeing the worth here. So let's take a look at Betty copies. A-, let's be charitable. Let's say, okay, 11,000. Again, what's that going to do? Like you kill them faster, you do, but you're going to kill them anyway. And you also have to consider the amount of damage that she's going to be doing next to the damage dealer that, by the way, we're presupposing you already have as a Giant Killer. Do we need Betty doing her Giant Killer damage on top of what your main Terry is doing? The answer is probably not, because the answer is going to be she's not doing nearly as much as your giant killer is going to do. So Betty's doing her job with CC, like 90-95% of her use, regardless of what her awaken is. Just let your damage dealer be a damage dealer. And let your supporters be supporters. So, the more intelligent of you, that sounds rather condescending. I'd take that back. Not the more intelligent, but the ones who have thought about this more are like, well, A tier doesn't just equal giant killer. It equals not even Defier. It equals other things. Let's see if I can remember where this is. Swap. There we go. It equals, there's Holy Armor and there's Divine Block, which I hear Divine Block got buffed as well. That's true. I think it is. I don't know if it's good. I haven't heard anything. But let's just assume it's spectacular now. It gets a great defensive stat. Well, it just goes back to, that's defense for one hero. So let's say I get it on my HHA. That's one hero that now has Holy Armor and Divine Block. Great. But what about all your other ones? Let's look at A tier Queen and Freya. Freya. Queen. Let's be charitable. Let's say 9K. Let's be charitable. Let's say 8K. So now you're looking at a team or half a team of A tier supports that you're getting just for Holy Armor and Divine Block. And I ask, is that going to get you thousands of Starry's worth of progress? When instead you could be using that on other things. For example, we have an event coming up right now. In fact, it's probably released by the time you're seeing this. In fact, I know it will be released by the time you're seeing this because I'm going to hold this video off until it is released. It's going to be the Luna Hero release event. All of those packs contain not just 20 train tickets, by the way. So even being uncharitable in terms of the CSG value here, that event is going to give you 20 train tickets per 2,500 CSG. It's also going to give you event currency for better event rewards. You can get Cores of Origin. You can help get Destiny materials. You can get sublimation chests. All things that I would argue are worth much more than Holy Armor and Divine Block are on each individual hero. For the amount of event currency you can get from just one A tier Awaken, and by the way, we haven't even talked about conversion yet. We can convert Starry Gems into CSG. And let's look at C tiers because everybody likes the C minus one. Yeah, so we need to look at C tier. We'll go to buyout price. So we'll just round this down to 50%. We'll be nice. Let's say that you can convert by 50%. If you have 12K Starry Gems, that's now 18K CSG that you can use on event packs and train tickets. 18K CSG, even if you only use the Starry Gem Mall, which you shouldn't be doing, you should save them for events. That is what? That is almost, or in fact, that might even be. It's close to 150 train tickets. So a full train rotation, which by the way you can hold for treasure up events. You can use it on Hero Token. You can use it on Alien Desert, like I did, if you want to buff your damage and sustain in Void bosses. So Hero Token for awesome stats. You've got Retro Gaming and Alien Desert for Void campaign stuff. You've got Hero Merch if that's your thing. It's not really my bag because I don't really care about that stuff. It seems rather inconsequential to me. It's just, who really cares? Like I would much rather have a full Pity Timer's worth of train tickets in a series of my choice than have whatever the A tier Ilamok would give me, which is, by the way, negligible damage, unless he's your main carry, of course. If he's your main carry, it's different. We're talking about if you keep the support heroes in their supporty role. And it's better sustain against Valkyrie waves and however effective Divine Block is. It could be cracked, in which case maybe I'm an idiot, but I suspect it's not going to be spectacular. I would take the train tickets every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And that's train tickets. Like, you can also get Destiny materials, which When you upgrade your temple, it gives you divine power, which gives you all damage dealt and gives you damage reduction for your whole team if they have divine power, if they're destiny heroes. That just seems like much better value to me. And so it's just kind of confusing to me seeing all of these people. Like, again, this doesn't apply to like big spenders who are already like, well, why do I need more train tickets when I'm already maxing the train every time I get the chance? Like, this obviously doesn't apply to you. A tier awakens could be warranted in that case. But in all the situations that I've seen recently, it's people who have like, I don't know, 2, 3 million attack in their train, which is big depending on their stage of the game. And then they're like, all right, brother, I'm going to spend 20, 30, 40K on getting an A tier team. I'm just like, bro, why would you do that? If you have 50K CSG, you can convert it to 75K CSG and use that on event packs for like a year or half a year, depending on how many events you like to do. And let's talk about from the mid spender's perspective here. If you always have CSG ready for events, each event, what it's going to cost to max in a lot of the cases is the weekly event pack, and then that's it. So that's $50 to $100, usually 100, and then you can just spend I think it's 9.75K CSG on maxing the CSG packs, and then you're done with the event. You've done it. It's done. It's over. And you get loads of cores and sometimes destiny materials if DH is feeling particularly generous, and then it's over. It's a good time. Or you can get A tier support, which I don't know. It just seems really bad to me. Copies do maintain their value decently well. Like, obviously, like some of the Freyas sold for a lot lately. In which case you could say, well, what if I just use them now and then I sell them later? It's true, you could do that. You could do that. But the market's fickle. You don't really know. You can't really predict anything. Like, for example, Aspens. The first Aspen I got was 40K Starry Gems. The first time I got an Aspen, and that was a good deal. Good-ish, anyway. Like, Mockman costed 50K. It was crazy. And now, obviously, I don't see that ever happening again. I don't see Aspens getting that high again. Never. And so I can't resell my copy for that much. So that's a net loss on my end. It's just, I would just really, really, really think about what you're getting. Because a full team of red looks cool. It does. It's shiny. And I know A tiers are hyped up because they used to be rare. Not everybody had them. But now they're more and more common. And if you already have your main damage dealer with an A tier, you just really need to think about how much utility the other A tiers are going to do. One area where they will help a ton is Aspen Dungeon. If I had an A tier Ilamok, I would clear more stages. If I had an A tier Betty, I would clear more stages. Absolutely. True. Fully concede that. Happily. But the issue is, who cares? It's Aspen Dungeon. Like, for example, is getting the A tier support going to clear you more than the section of 50 stages you're on? The answer is probably not, right? I think probably not. It could, likely not. And in which case, what is that really getting you? You have all the deals that you're getting already. What's 50 stages more of deals? Probably not 12K Starry Gems worth. So I would just be careful. And remember, you're not sacrificing an A tier by not buying them. You are just reconsidering where you are doing your resource partitioning. And let's say, for example, you only want to spend your Starry on A tiers. Because red is shiny and everything else just isn't as glamorous to you. Train is boring. You're just throwing your stuff into the wind and then you get more stats and it's kind of lame, which is true. I understand the perspective. But at the same time, you can also consider I can sell Starry Gems for money because the black market is a thing that exists. And there are very reliable channels that you can use to sell it, reputable people that can sell it. There's a whole middleman system. There's lots of nice people that we can refer each other to. And they do an awesome job. And Starry is always in demand because there's always people who need Starry. And DH is always doing stuff, introducing more stuff that needs more Starry. For example, they buffed S tiers. That's a ton of Starry. that people were then willing to spend because S tiers became worth it. They got this whole soul power thing. This right here, I have 1,000 attack on Aspen and then 1,500 on here. I think that's 20, 30k Starry. That's 20, 30k more Starry than I would have spent had they not increased that. And I would rather have all of this free stats that I can move around so I can like perfectly tune the speed order of my teams than have 30k Starry that's 3 A tiers on a good day, considering this market right now. And you might get 4 if you're lucky. It's just, man, it just feels really bad to me. It does not seem worth it at all. So again, last time I'm going to reinforce, this is not directed towards people who are buying events anyway, who are getting trained anyway, and are like, well, what do you mean I shouldn't get A tiers? What am I supposed to spend my Starry on? It's literally extra for me, and I don't need the money for it. I want to spend it on the game. In that case, A tiers are fine. Depending on what priorities you like, if you like Star Expedition a lot, I might direct you towards the S tier market because silence immunity is humongous. But yeah, what's that really going to do? And it's also worth knowing that you won't know how helpful the A tiers are until you've bought them. I've considered, for example, I like Star Expedition a lot. I like it a lot. It's my favorite game mode. And it's what I tailor my whole account around. I don't even have TBB anymore because I wanted to buff my Aspen with Unki and this Aspen. And so what I considered was sometimes my supports would die, and I was like, well, maybe Holy Armor or Divine Block would help, which they probably would. Probably. The attack argument is moot because I have A tier attack on here already, and I have A tier attack on here already. All of my supports have A tier attack except for MFF, who doesn't really need it, and DGN, who again probably doesn't need it. My TBB copy has it, which I might sell that. I have a cracked Jara copy as well somewhere. Yeah. Um, but then I'm like, well, how much progress will that really get me? Will they be able to, let's just assume they're able to live the current boss stage. Are they able to live the next one? How about the one after that? I won't know until I buy it. And if I buy one A tier, by the way, not even a full team, and if I spend 12k Starry Gems on an A tier, and it gets me one more boss stage before they start dying again, I'm throwing my phone across the room. That's such bad value. It's scary. I would probably have better odds of survival taking that Starry, converting it into CSG, and buying out a month's worth of train tickets. I would probably have better odds of survival there. If not directing that towards an event where I can get Cores of Origin, which everybody needs for Destiny materials. I'm working on my Star Alchemist Helm's Young core. I'm going to be looking at my Vesa core eventually whenever I need more Cores of Origin. I might look at Gaggy too if his trans version is worthwhile. Probably won't be getting DTV because I only care about Star Expedition. Not sure how much he'd help there. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. If you think it's stupid and you think I'm dumb and you're like, A tier's greatest investment on the planet, I'll be like, okay, cool. I'm open to being convinced. I'm not set in my ways. If you present me a valid argument, I will take it in mind and I will reevaluate my view. But seriously, right now, I do not see the value of having multiple A tiers. I just don't. Unless you really want to push every other game mode, in which case an A tier like second damage dealer might be warranted, like a DTV or an SSM. I secretly do want an A tier SSM because I think he's badass and awesome. But bro, other than that, it seems like really bad value. And even if I did get an A tier DTV right now or an A tier SSM right now, I can't support them. I can't. Like it would be a waste of Starry right now because they wouldn't get me very much progress because my Aspen's better. Until they have similar investment, in which case both of them would probably be much better than LFA. Because if we're being honest, LFA's kind of cheeks in the end game, aside from Star Expedition. He's just kind of bad. But yeah, like if I just had like all the A tiers right now, and I'm just like building up my second damage dealer brother, and then oops, leaked my IGN, which I've probably done before, and I'm just like, all right, third homeowner time, and I already have a Destiny hero, and then I'm getting, let's just round it up. Let's say 10k attack, 10 mil attack. Bro, it's still not going to do very much. Like having this cracked awaken and not enough heroes to support a second A tier damage dealer. That's like putting racing fuel in a beater. It's not it's not worth it. You're getting this super expensive. I don't know how racing works, by the way. So just ignore it and just take the analogy as it is. You're just like getting this crappy car that can't utilize the fuel that you're putting into it. It's just like, bro, it's a bad idea. But that's my opinion anyway. I've droned on for long enough. Have yourself a wonderful day, everybody. Don't be too mean to me if it turns out I'm wrong. Just be nice. You can be mean if you want to. I don't care. Have a good day, everybody.